My wife and I decided we were done with city life. We found this small town in Missouri where we decided to move. Great small town with amazing people. Everything was all good until we met our neighbor, Mrs. Jones. The first day of us moving in, she started immediately snapping photos of our house. At first, it seemed harmless. She'd wave politely from her driveway, phone in hand, saying she was just capturing the charming architect for her social media. My wife Sarah thought it was cute. Finally, someone who appreciated the old school beauty of our 1940s craftsman home. But I started noticing the angles she focused on. It wasn't the house itself she was interested in. She was taking photos of our windows, our back gate, the side door, always when she thought no one was watching. Then came the first real red flag. Our mail started arriving slightly tampered with. Envelopes gently seemed open, then resealed with care. But it didn't stop there. Our garbage started disappearing. Every Tuesday I'd roll our bins to the curb, but by Wednesday morning they were already empty and neatly placed by our garage. So I stayed up one night, watching from the bedroom window. At exactly 2:47 a.m., Mrs. Jones stepped out. Dressed head to toe in black, she moved strategically, sifting through each trash bag with latex gloves on. That was the last straw. I installed a security camera the next day. Mrs. Jones oddly enough noticed right away. "Just wanted to check in," she said. I saw the camera and wondered if there's been any trouble in the neighborhood. But her eyes, they didn't match the tone of her voice. And behind her, I spotted 3 cameras mounted on her house, all aimed at ours. I didn't trust her. Something felt extremely off about the whole situation. So I started doing a little digging. I looked up her name in the county property records. That's when I noticed something strange. There was no Mrs. Jones listed on their ownership documents. In fact, the house she was living in wasn't even under her name. It belonged to a man who passed away 3 years ago. No sale records, no rental listings, nothing. It didn't make sense. Where did she come from? Why was no one else noticing her? Was she like this with the other neighbors? That was the final straw. My intuition kicked in and I didn't feel safe at home. The next morning, Sarah and I rented a U-Haul. We didn't even wait for the weekend. We just started packing. The U-Haul was full. We were almost gone. I was strapping the last box down when I heard the voice. "Moving already?" She was standing on the sidewalk, calm, hands folded. "Was it something I did?" she asked. I didn't answer. She stepped closer and added, "You should know, some people are harder to forget than others." I walked away, got in the truck, but as I looked in the side mirror, she was staring, and she was smiling. Since I was a kid, my dad had me out in the woods nearly year-round. My dad was the definition of a nature lover, and like many dads, he dreamed of me following in his footsteps. And for the longest time, I did. I loved it. Hours alone in the wilderness brought me a strange sense of calm. But last hunting season, that peace shattered. I don't think I'll ever return to those woods. What I saw that day clings to my mind. I don't think I'll ever shake it. It started like so many other hunts. I drove my truck down a long forgotten dirt trail and disappeared into the thick forest where my dad had always taken me. It wasn't a spot just anyone could reach. Only those who knew how to get to the land. I parked, grabbed my bow, arrows, and pack, then set off into the deep woods. It was a special place my father and I had stumbled upon years ago. Hidden among dense hardwoods was the open acre of tall grass and clover. We'd often see deer grazing there, rabbits darting across the clearing, even the occasional owl calling in the evening. It was like something out of a dream. I'd walked this path hundreds of times, but that day, something was off. There were no birds, no deer, no breeze. The forest was dead silent, like the whole place was holding its breath. When I stepped out of the tree line and into the clearing, I froze. Parked right in the center of the meadow was a rusted old pickup truck. It was in horrible condition. The bed was half caved in. One of the tires had gone completely flat. Moss had started growing along the roof. It looked like it had been sitting there for years, forgotten, abandoned. I stared, stunned. How can anyone get this truck deep into the woods? There were no tire tracks, no disturbed branches, no torn up grass. Against my better judgment, I stepped closer. As I approached, I noticed someone slumped over in the driver's seat, a man. I couldn't make out his face through the grime-covered windows, but his head was tilted down, like he was asleep. I paused. Something told me to leave it alone, but I kept walking. "Hey," I called out gently. "You okay in there?" I took a few more steps towards the door. That's when he shot upright. His eyes snapped open, wild and bloodshot. His skin looked cracked, like old leather, and his mouth twitched violently, as if holding back something primal. Before I could react, he flung the door open and lunged at me, snarling, swinging. I barely dodged the first hit. He came at me with full force, hands clawing, mouth foaming like a rabid animal. I stumbled backward, tripped over my own boots and hit the ground hard. For a split second, our eyes met, and there was nothing human behind his. Pure madness. I didn't hesitate. I turned and ran, faster than I have ever in my life. My gear banged against my back as I pushed through the underbrush, heart pounding, lungs burning. I didn't stop running until I saw my truck. Only then I looked back. Nothing, no one. The woods were silent again, just like before. But I know what I saw. That truck didn't drive itself out there. That man didn't just happen to be sleeping in it. He was waiting for someone. And I don't think I was supposed to walk away. I was laying in bed when my phone buzzed against my chest. It was a private number. Normally I wouldn't bother answering, but something inside me told me to. I held the phone to my ear and answered with a tired, slightly irritated, "Hello?" I was expecting silence or a scam, but what I got was a woman's voice, soft and unsettling. "Hi," she said, followed by my first name. My heart started racing. I didn't recognize the voice. It was familiar, but off. Like someone was purposely masking it. I kept my cool and asked, "Who is this?" Her response, "Do you have a girl?" It caught me off guard. Strange question. I told her no, and she let out this short, mocking laugh that made my skin crawl. "Why are you asking me that?" I said. She didn't answer, just chuckled again, that same airy tone. I started to say something, but she cut me off. "What's it like in Naperville these days?" My stomach dropped. She knew my town name. This wasn't someone randomly guessing. My town is small, around 10,000 people. It's not like she asked, "What's it like in Chicago?" She knew exactly where I was. Trying not to show panic, I replied, "I don't know what you're talking about." My voice shook, but I think I masked it well enough. Then came that laugh again, same tone, same cadence. She said we used to date a few years ago. Said we dated briefly 3 years ago. Thing is, the girl she sounded like, I dated her way more recently, and she never went to my school. None of it added up. Then it hit me. How did she get my number? How did she know my name, my town, my school? I snapped. Who is this? I demanded. She chuckled one last time, then hung up. I sat there, staring at my screen, heart pounding. My head was spinning. I was shaken, but after a while, I let it fade. Then, about a month later, something happened. It was a Friday night. I got home from work and settled into my couch. I didn't even think about that strange call. It had drifted to the back of my mind. I then passed out on my couch. Around 4 a.m., I woke up to the sound of the front door clicking shut. When I got up that morning, I made a horrifying discovery. On the kitchen table, where I know I hadn't left anything, was a small folded letter. Next to it, an old photo. It was me, maybe 16 or 17, standing in front of my old high school. But the girl next to me in the photo had been torn out. Jagged edges ripped with care. I unfolded the letter. It was handwritten confession, pages of twisted poetic language, talking about how much she loved me, how she never forgot our time together, how I ruined everything. The handwriting was neat, almost elegant, but the words were unhinged. She had signed it with the name I didn't recognize, but somehow I knew it was her, the girl from the call. I wasn't even angry. I just felt this deep, cold wave of dread settle into my chest, a sickening anxiety I couldn't shake.